Welcome to the enchanting world of tourism, where unforgettable experiences and thrilling adventures await you. As a tourist, you have the incredible opportunity to explore new destinations, immerse yourself in diverse cultures, and create cherished memories that will last a lifetime. Traveling as a tourist allows you to step out of your comfort zone and embrace the unknown. Whether you're wandering through bustling city streets, relaxing on pristine beaches, or hiking in breathtaking natural landscapes, each destination offers a unique charm that captivates the soul.
The process of natural selection is a fundamental mechanism in the theory of evolution. Proposed by Charles Darwin, it describes how species adapt and change over time. Organisms within a population exhibit variations. And those with advantageous traits for survival and reproduction are more likely to pass on their genes to the next generation. This leads to the accumulation of favorable traits within the population, enhancing its fitness and suitability to its environment. Over generations, this process can result in the development of entirely new species.
The scientist carefully conducted experiments in the controlled laboratory environment, meticulously recording data and observations. Their keen analytical skills enabled them to identify intricate patterns within the collected data, uncovering novel insights into the underlying mechanisms of the phenomenon. Collaborating with fellow researchers, they engaged in lively discussions, challenging hypotheses and proposing new avenues of inquiry. Through their dedicated research, the scientists contributed valuable knowledge to their field, furthering our understanding of the natural world and pushing the boundaries of scientific discovery.
Quantum foam is an idea that emerges from the application of quantum physics to the fabric of space and time itself. You see, Einstein taught us in general activity that space and time are not in an inert backdrop. They participate in an unfolding of the cosmos. Space and time can warp and curve that creates the force of gravity.
Salt was a highly valued commodity in ancient times, not because it made food taste nicer, but because of the way it could be used to preserve food. This meant that people were not so dependent on seasonal variations in what was available for them to eat. They could preserve what they produced and consume it as required. It also meant that food could be transported long distances. Salt was not easy to obtain, and so prices for it were high.
Across the world, people have been watching the choice that Britain has made. I would reassure those markets and investors that Britain's economy is fundamentally strong, and I would also reassure Britons living in European countries and European citizens living here that there will be no immediate changes in your circumstances. There will be no initial change in the way our people can travel, in the way our goods can move, or the way our services can be sold. We must now prepare for a negotiation with the European Union.
For the last 82 years, Sweden's Nobel Academy has decided who will receive the Nobel Prize in Literature, thereby determining who will be elevated from the great and the near-great to the immortal. But today the Academy is coming under heavy criticism both from the without and from within. Critics contend that the selection of the winners often has less to do with true writing ability than with the peculiar internal politics of the Academy and of Sweden itself.
The comic move is to guide us to a benevolent conception of people, and hence, parts of ourselves. Comedy also does a great job at reducing power imbalances. It's hugely reassuring to see the powerful laughing at themselves. Finding oneself comical is a token of maturity. It means being able to see one's faults without being too defensive about it. Humor often provides a mechanism whereby the powerless, or at least, the less powerful, can give constructive but pointed feedback to the powerful.
Walking is the most fundamental basic form of human physical activity. The average sort of hunter-gatherer will take 10,000–15,000 steps a day. The average American before the pandemic was taking something like 4,700 and something steps a day. Only about 20% of Americans get the very minimum levels of exercise that every health organization in the world thinks is the minimum for an adult, which is 150 minutes a week. So, 80% of us really struggle and fail to get very basic amounts of exercise, but almost everyone says that they want to get enough exercise.
Parties have become synonymous with sociability because of certain underlying ideas about what true social connection might require and entail. We assume that sociability naturally springs up when lots of people are put together in a room. That it means speaking a lot and notably cheerfully about things that have been happening in our lives, that it depends on a jokey manner and ideally on the possession of a few entertaining anecdotes, often involving striking coincidences. But such assumptions sidestep two sizable objections.
Force is done by either push or pull. When you push or pull the trolley, shopping cart, it will experience forces. But force does not necessarily move the object. The object can experience forces but be stationary at the same time. Even when an object is pushed or pulled by forces, it doesn't mean that the object will move.
When Australians engage in debate about educational quality or equity, they often seem to accept that a country cannot achieve both at the same time. Curriculum reforms intended to improve equity often fail to do so because they increase breadth or differentiation in offerings in a way that increases differences in quality. Further, these differences in quality often reflect differences in students' social backgrounds because the new offerings are typically taken up by relatively disadvantaged students who are not served well them.
We usually see blogging as a two-way interaction, in which the blogger creates the content, and the readers interact or challenge the author. But the case will be much difficult when it comes to government, such as the White House. Because people will become more coarse and write online, especially in the comment area. The governor blog may go wild and chaotic. So the government will have to administrate the comment. Once the government starts administrating the comment, citizens may find the government manipulating what should be said and what should be shown, which contradicts the original intention.
This is the first ocean deployment of two new high-precision instruments designed to monitor the Earth's signals from the seafloor. This housing contains the tiltmeter and nano-bottom pressure recorder and the associated electronics and cabling used for power and communications. The instruments were deployed on the seafloor by a remotely operated vehicle as part of the Mars seafloor.
A painter hangs his or her finished pictures on a wall, and everyone can see it. A composer writes a work, but no one can hear it until it is performed. Professional singers and players have great responsibilities, for the composer is utterly dependent on them. A student of music needs as long and as arduous a training to become a performer as a medical student needs to become a doctor. Most training is concerned with technique, for musicians have to have the muscular proficiency of an athlete or a ballet dancer.
Archaeology is a source of history, not just a bumble auxiliary discipline. Archaeological data are historical documents in their own right, not mere illustrations to written texts, just as much as any other historian. An archaeologist studies and tries to reconstitute the process that has created the human world in which we live, and us ourselves insofar as we are each creatures of our age and social environment.
In the late 1960s, many people in North America turned their attention to environmental problems, and new steel and glass skyscrapers were widely criticized. Ecologists pointed out that a cluster of tall buildings in a city often overburdens public transportation and parking lot capacities.
From Boston to Los Angeles, from New York City to Chicago to Dallas, museums are either planning, building, or wrapping up wholesale expansion programs. These programs already have radically altered facades and floor plans or are expected to do so in the not-too-distant future. In New York City alone, 6 major institutions have spread up and out into the airspace and neighborhoods around them or are preparing to do so. The reasons for this confluence of activity are complex, but one factor is a consideration everywhere: space.
For students around the country, summer vacation may be in full swing, but for many, that hasn't kept them from learning, especially those interested in a career in agriculture. For the 6th consecutive year, National 4-H Council has partnered with CME Group, the world's leading and most diverse derivatives marketplace, to bring the Commodity Carnival experience to more than 100 state and county fairs in the Midwest.
Many families have a single debit or credit card shared among several individuals, including teens and college students who may lose track of purchases, buy from unsecured websites, or access money without clearing the amount with parents. These problems may do more than cause friction in the family. They can put the family credit at risk if a card number is stolen or a card is misplaced.